Friday, January meeting of the KC Coalition for Digital Inclusion. We start every meeting by looking at our vision and mission. The vision, which is that every citizen and household in the Kansas City metropolitan area has access to the internet, the equipment needed to use it, and the skills needed to take advantage. Our mission as a coalition is to facilitate collaboration among organizations and initiatives working to bridge the digital divide in order to maximize the resources for the greatest impact. We've got some social channels that you can follow us on. There is a join function at the digitalinclusionkc.org website if you are not a member. And we'll move kind of quickly into our agenda here. We'll start off, we'll welcome some of our new folks. It's good to see a couple new faces, including some from out of town that have been able to join us. We will hear some updates from our state and federal representatives, JR and Kimberlin on the state side, and Rastafari from NTIA. We have a member update. We try to reserve some time just for members to share a little bit about what they're doing when they've got something to share. So we will welcome one of our steering council members, Ina Montgomery with Urban Tech. And then our featured content today is from the Lead for America's American Connection Corps. Many of you know American Connection Corps fellows that we've hosted here, but thought it would be useful to get sort of an overview on this really cool national program. We've had some really interesting work with them, and I think there's a lot of opportunities for Kansas City going forward with this program. So with that, new members, we got where'd Venus go? Is Venus still here? Yes. Venus, do you wanna say hello?
Hello.
And give a little introduction for yourself?
Sure. Yeah. And I'm joining as a guest. Thank you. Greetings from Georgia and happy Friday. Um, I am a Bank On leader. I'm formerly the Bank On Atlanta program manager, and I have moved on to lead the charge throughout the state of Georgia. And what we do is bring the unbanked and underbanked into the financial mainstream by providing safe and affordable accounts. And so I'm bringing the financial empowerment along with digital empowerment together, for our focus for our launch. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for joining us today. I may call on some new names to me, and I apologize if you have been here before. Mikia Johnson?
Yes. Hello, my name is Mikia Johnson. I'm a Family and Community Engagement Director with Essential Families.
Great, welcome. And then I think Michelle, are you part of the presentation?
In cheering on only. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Michelle Wiedberg. I just started at American Connection Corps about 7 days ago.
And where are you based out of?
I'm based in New Orleans, Louisiana, where it's about to be very cold, but not cold compared to Kansas City, so I'm gonna hush.
Excellent.
Yeah, you may not get any fans from that comment.
Okay. Anyone else that I've missed where this is your first time? Other than our presenters. I know Iris and Katie, you'll get on in a minute, so I'll let you guys introduce yourselves very shortly.
Hey, I forgot to mention, we have an American Connection Corps member on our team, on our Bank On Georgia team. So, yes.
Oh, wonderful. All right. Well, we will move to our state rep updates. Let's start, Kimberlin, with you.
All right, I had to unmute. Good morning and go Chiefs. That would be me. For those that are new that don't know me, I am the Digital Opportunities Program Manager for the state of Kansas and Office of Broadband under the Department of Commerce. We currently have a lot going on right now. There are 11 programs right now that we're currently running. that are broadband infrastructure and digital opportunities programs. I'm currently trying to manage two of those programs, which is the DOC program, which is the digital skills training. We have gotten 21 applications in that we are looking at right now, assembling an executive review committee to evaluate the applications. And soon we will be awarding close to $2 million in digital skills training across the state of Kansas. So proud about that. We currently have an application open for our ADOPT program, which is for public Wi-Fi and device distribution. If you know of any programs or any entities, organizations, associations in any way that have those programs that serve the mighty people of Kansas, please let them know that the application is still open. We have close to $5 million to distribute for that particular program. And again, it's public Wi-Fi and device distributions. And then last but not least, that has gotten, we have a middle mile position open. So if you know anyone who is interested or looking for a type of position, we are currently recruiting for a middle mile position and an operations coordinator. So our team is growing. 2 years ago, we had 2 people on the team, and now we have 9 with 3 positions open. Our director position has still not been filled from J. Pyros de Cavallo. So just FYI. And then we have been awarded, which you guys, I think the last time I was on the call, we had just gotten our notice that we got our digital opportunities plan capacity grant awarded. And so we are diligently working on the program guidelines for that. Our illustrious FPO, DEFPO will give more feedback on that. Ross Smith, he's been very helpful in helping us get those things together, but we are currently getting those program guidelines in order so that we can start our sub-grant program for this capacity funding. And that's my update right now. That's enough.
Do you
Any
have
questions?
is there a webinar on that at the end of the month?
The webinar is January the 27th. Yes, January 27th. It is posted on our website. So yes, we will have a webinar on that. We are preparing for that as well. Sorry, thank you for mentioning that.
Okay.
Yeah, January 27th.
Perfect.
Excuse me.
Hey, Kim, this is Kenneth with Essential Families. I have a question. For you. So does the responding organization have to reside in the state of Kansas?
They do not have to reside in the state of Kansas. What are you inquiring about?
Your grants. One of the grants we looked at, we were not eligible because we didn't have a presence at that time in Kansas. So we didn't submit our grant. So I'm just asking going forward.
The entity does not have to reside in Kansas, but needs to prove that there's been some, you do work and have done business in the state of Kansas for at least a year or so.
Okay.
So it's just proof of serving the state of Kansas. But no, you don't have to reside in Kansas.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yes,
Sorry,
Leslie. Go ahead,
you
Kimberlyn. I didn't.
Right.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Anybody else?
Cool.
Okay. Other questions, comments? And we'll get JR is going to be a little bit late, so we'll pick him up probably after Ina's member update and hear our Missouri update. But we will go now to Ross Smith from NTIA. Maybe. There you go.
It's going. There we go. Good morning, y'all.
Morning.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be on the call. Kimberly, thank you for the kind words. I know they've been putting in a lot of hard work. So I think
We're buddies.
from an inside,
We're close.
we're close. And I know from an NTI perspective, we're definitely appreciative of the diligent work that her team is doing and Michi's team is doing, respectively, because it's definitely not an easy task. It's a tall task, but we know that it's worth getting the services to the folks in your communities. And so appreciate the work that they're doing every day to make that happen. And we're excited. I know, I think it was last month, briefly joined the call, and there was some conversation. I know Leslie has kind of gone over some of these things, and I know Amy as well kind of has given an overview of kind of what the NTIA digital equity programs look like. But for a more recent update, we've just finished off our competitive grant cycle, and so we've had some recipients been funded that will continue on a rolling basis, and so we're excited for that. But that does mean, from a state perspective and a stakeholder and coalition building perspective, right, as you're having those conversations about what program or interventions or services you're providing to ensure that we're complementing each other and really making sure that we're having that transformational approach by maximizing the dollars, not through duplication, but through really amplifying each other's work and filling in those gaps that may have been left either from the state's digital equity plans or from things that your state just couldn't accomplish in the first couple waves of federal funding with their capacity grant applications. But, from NTIA perspective, I think one of the examples that we've kind of used to make sure that we can communicate effectively what we're trying to do is we've kind of taken the brakes out of the car to make sure that we're getting the funding out to you all. So we've really stomped on the gas to do this work and try to make sure we get this funding through as soon as possible, knowing that there's been some hiccups along the way, but we're excited to be at this point where dollars are in the state's hands and they're able to work with you all to develop these plans that are so deserved, or that the people in your community are so deserving of, to fill those gaps. And so we're excited to hear those success stories. We're so excited to see pictures and have conversations and really identify and provide you with data to take to your legislature and other stakeholders in the future to say, hey, we know these interventions work. We've got concrete data to show that X, Y, and Z are making transformational impact in our communities. And so we need your additional support in the future to sustain the programming that we've put in place with the federal funding. So, we're excited, and I'll take a few questions just with the caveat that when it comes to the competitive grant, I can't really speak too specifically to that. And so I may deflect some of those or let you know pretty directly that I can't touch those. But any questions about, the timelines for the specific project form submission and things like that, I know I can speak to, and I know the states are doing a great job as well, trying to keep you all in the loop on that.
I've got a question for you, Mr. Smith. This is Kenneth Anthony with the Essential Family. So I've been on several conference calls, and I'm hearing the word data, how important the data is to help represent what's truly going on at the grassroots level, and how that will help, get additional funding for the state governments down the road. Now, I have a data background. So there's two different data sets here, right? There's one data set that's called a referenceable data. When you take data and you reference other cities, the nation, and you take a percentage of that, then it's what Sprint taught me. We call it empirical data. That data is when you're actually talking right to the people you're serving. So my question to you is, in terms of your data reporting, how important is it to have empirical data versus referenceable data? Because the empirical data, I can assure you, sir, that's the real world, right? And I can tell you also that the referenceable data, there's always a margin of error. And so you don't have a margin of error when you're dealing with empirical data because you're talking to the people. So I just want to get your feedback on how important it is, this data reporting, because I know there's a statutory requirement for meeting 5 different key areas. So I just want to get your feedback on that.
Yeah, I think to your point as a whole, empirical data is extremely important. And I think regarding our DE capacity application in our grants, most of the data that will be collected will be empirical data, right? So we have these covered populations that the federal government has outlined, and states through their digital equity plans and then their digital equity capacity applications have outlined which programs they plan to implement, and how these programs and or interventions, what those outcomes will be, those anticipated outcomes, right? The number of people served, right? So a lot of those quantitative data points, right, that we're looking for, some of those empirical data points that we're looking for. But on the other side, when you talk about the reference data, what we're hoping as a collective, right, is that when we pull together all the empirical analysis from all 56 states and territories that we funded, right, now we can actually reference data from other states to show commonalities. And that commonality helps us to really tell that whole story of the impact of the bipartisan infrastructure law, but more specifically, how the BEAD infrastructure side of it, right? So BEAD being the car or the vehicle, and then DE really being the fuel, right? The gas. And I'm hoping that it's like high octane fuel, right? That's running this thing down the track fast. And so for us, that's what we're really hoping to tell the story, Mr. Yancey. And so, as you do that work at the grassroots level, and you got those success stories, that really helps to just amplify, right? And demonstrate that that's happening everywhere, and why it's so important to continue the investments that we're having on the forefront, because this is a historical investment. But our hope is that it trickles down and sends these ripples and waves to our communities, that they keep investing in doing this work past the tenure of the 5 years that we've set a period performance for these grants.
Perfect. As the data scientist for Essential Families, I approve your response.
Hopefully my grad school professors will as well, because I'm so all those chi-square analysis kind of got me.
Very important. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Ken. That's great, Ross. Another question?
Yeah, I have a question. Roz, hi, my name is Tom Esselman. I'm with Depot KC, which is the Digital Equity Program Office. Yesterday, I read a notice from Francella Ochillo, basically from the Department of Public Engagement at NTIA, saying that her department and all the positions are being eliminated, and as of today. And I didn't know how much you feel like that's going to affect your ability at NTIA to do these follow-ups on the competitive grants, and what should we be thinking in our communities when we read about a lot of these jobs going away with the new administration?
So, Tom, I can't speak to some of that specifically. I can say from our team, what's been communicated to us is that, right, to our earlier point, we've kind of removed the brakes out of the car, right, to get the funding out. That's been our goals, right, to get the funding to you all to start doing the work. Secondarily, though, nothing's been communicated to me directly that is going to impact how we do our work and serve the states. I would say my background, so prior to coming to Department of Commerce, NTIA, I spent 7 years in the Iowa legislature as a representative representing Northeast Iowa politically. And so I can say this was a bipartisan law that passed. And I think it heavily supports not just more metropolitan, but rural areas as well across the state. I think that there's strong bipartisan support for the efforts that we are making collectively on the infrastructure side and the programming side. And so I think that gives us some insulation from some of that stuff. But every new administration is a new administration. I don't foresee that being an issue from our direct service aspect of it. But I would also be remiss to make any kind of predictions, because that's above my pay grade in the area that I don't want to jump too deep into the water. But for right now, I know my focus is on making sure that for this call, Kansas and Missouri got what they need to be successful.
That's great. Thanks.
I see a lot of the Chiefs red, and so I won't talk about my favorite teams because I know better. Because Kimberlyn has reminded me when it's best to say less.
Yes. She gives wise counsel.
However, I do have to wear the Bears. Jersey just for a minute, because someone's marrying my daughter that works for the Bears. So I am a little flexible.
It's a good compromise.
Aaron, it looks like JR is here. We want to pivot to him.
Yeah, almost. A couple other things on NTIA before we do that. And thank you, Ross, for that update. I think Ross mentioned this, and there was And actually, maybe this is a question first because I didn't quite catch if you said it. So there was an announcement, I think a week and a half ago, of the first sort of 11 recommended for funding um, out of that NTIA nationally competitive grant, which is a little bit different than funding. And so it does look like, I mean, kind of to your point, it looks like that is moving. Our regional Kansas City submission is still in review. So we are within the review piece. We've got most of the folks here are Digital Life Exchange members, so we're part of that partnership regional application. We haven't gotten any specific updates. We have been working with our congressional delegation just to make sure, to kind of, let them understand that that is in process. And also, and this was a good sort of tip from NDIA in terms of thinking about how to navigate this, which is, to make sure that your federal delegation knows as soon as, I mean, if we do get an award or if we get it recommended for an award, we want to make sure that our federal delegation is in position to help support the actual delivery or fulfillment of that recommendation as it comes down. So there is a lot that we're doing on the back end from the ecosystem standpoint to do what we can to make sure that goes through. We've gotten really good feedback from state and some third-party reps. I think we've got a really competitive application, but we'll see what happens in terms of the award, and then obviously how that plays out even after recommendation or award. Because even after award, as we found out with the ACP whole project, it's not done until it's done. So there's a lot of work to do, and it's been good to keep going through that. So any other questions in terms of the regional application or approach on the NTIA piece? Also, Ross, I will say that some of our congressional delegation did not know that you were appointed. So they're like, oh, you should talk to Melinda and Amy. And I'm like, yeah, well, we do. And if it has to do with DEA, they punt you over to Rastafari. So you may be getting some some outreach. Just want to make sure that connection's made.
No worries at all. And our goal at NTIA when we decided to try to give more support to the digital equity program was really, we know that the B-sided house gets busy and we wanted to provide more almost customer service, to be honest, to the states. And so by having designated digital equity FPOs, we're hopeful that alleviates some of the pressure that they were feeling, but also gives you more of a direct line for sure.
Awesome.
Thanks, y'all.
All right, JR.
Thank you. Hey everyone, JR here, Missouri Office of Broadband Development. Honestly, I was joining today to be kept abreast of developments. I don't really have much information to provide outside of what I said last week. If anyone has any questions about any of the programs that we're currently running, happy to answer those. But again, I'm here to keep myself in the know, be aware of what digital equity practitioners across the state are up to, what they need, so that we can be as responsive, as effective as we can be.
I have one, JR. Do you have any, I mean, things move fast, right? A lot can change in a week. So I'm just wondering if I'm guessing since you don't have an update on your state capacity grant program that nothing has changed, but I know that you were hoping to have a little bit more progress on that over the course of that week. So no news is no news.
No, well, I'll give you a response, but in advance, you're not going to like it. There has certainly been progress in the last week, and there have been developments, none of which I am at liberty to share. But I promise things are progressing, for what that's worth.
One other question. I'm curious if you've got any sense yet, and I realize his inauguration was just days ago, but looking ahead to the Kehoe administration, I'm curious if there are any implications for your work that you would like to share with the group.
I would have to say nothing's really been communicated to our office so far. I think we do our best to insulate our work so that regardless of what administration is in charge at the federal or the state level, we don't just talk about digital opportunities for the sake of it. We talk about digital opportunities as a way to build Missouri's economy, as a way to get more people, as a way for people to elevate their own economic circumstances, and that particularly ties close to workforce development. And we do know that the new governor is a big fan of workforce development. So we're hoping that gives us a little flexibility, a little bit of staying power, but we've had no direct signals so far.
And I will say, sort of anecdotally, I have heard, for whatever that's worth, that Kehoe likes Kansas City. So that's always a thing, that is, you're never quite sure how the geography, politics of the state play in the state house. But the feedback that I have sort of heard through the grapevine is things should be good for this side of the state. So take that for what it's worth, which probably isn't much.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it.
Anything else for JR before we transition to member update? All right. Thank you, sir. For our member update, we have Ina Montgomery with Urban Tech. And she obviously has been with us since the beginning. I think we all know Ina pretty well, but continues to add interesting sort of nuances and levels to the programming. I will precursor this a little bit. It's been interesting. We've had a couple conversations, and Ina has really driven a lot of this in some of our planning meetings. There's a whole sort of aspect of digital inclusion that that hasn't been a huge part of our programming. I had an interesting conversation with Chuck Sailors, who used to be at JVS, and he's moved over to the Sunflower Foundation, and they're doing a lot like in schools with sort of just online health for kids. Screen Sanity is another organization, sort of how you say safe online, and in that is cybersecurity. We've gotten some into that, but I know that Ina has been working on that a bit, and particularly from a workforce angle. So Ina, let me turn it over to you to give an update.
Well, thank you, Aaron. Excuse me, I'm at the end of a cold, so excuse my throat. Happy New Year to everybody. Looks like everybody's ready, already hit the ground running here in 25. And as I was telling Aaron, I've got a couple of mantras going forward with this year. One is to thrive in 25. And the other is it's going to be all the way live in 25. So I like to have upbeat mantras to keep this work going. I am especially happy about this year because I'll be focusing on my digital skills training program. I've got some good news with that. I worked with 3 boys out of De La Salle High School who had never even had a class in computer science. They were able to attend my Intro to Cybersecurity class, and they gained, all 3 of them got their digital badge certification in Intro to Cybersecurity. So with that, one of the students who was really interested in cybersecurity, so he is now enrolled at Penn Valley getting his AA certification. So these are the stories that we want to hear, where kids who are marginalized because not having a class in computer science in your juniors in high school just does not make sense to me in 2025. And I forgot to apologize for my video. For some reason, my video is not coming up. So I am excited about that. Of the 3 boys, 2 of them were trying to take the class on their phones, which I thought was another issue, of course. And so through the Kansas City Digital Inclusion Fund, I did receive a small grant. And so it was a device grant. So with that, I was able to purchase 3 laptops. They're not high-powered, high-end laptops, but they would give them access to the Cisco platform where they can continue to take classes for free. And so I'm excited about that as well. Some of them I know are taking advantage of that. They had not been taught the difference of operating systems. There's a data science class on there that I believe one or two of them were thinking about taking. So I'm going to continue my partnership with De La Salle because other students were also interested in the opportunity. And so as a part of the ecosystem, I will be working with Full Employment Council for job placement because I have mentioned to these kids, and as I go forward to talk about the digital skills training, they can be, as other kids have been doing in the suburbs, working from 9 to 1 at night instead of gaming at a help desk and earning probably $35 to $40 per hour. So that is the objective for this year, to make sure those boys get a job secured and to continue, as I said, in the ecosystem of making sure I'm doing the training and that they're having the opportunity to get the jobs that are in the 21st century, as we know. So with that, if you go to my website, which I just updated, and I will continue to grow, you will see that the classes for the Cisco curriculum is there. And so if you click on the Cisco Networking Academy, it's going to take you to the Cisco website where anybody can explore the classes. They've got it broken out, as you see, into different subject areas. I am able to offer all of those classes. Again, I am sponsored by the University of Central Missouri to offer these classes. And I will conduct or host, rather, office hours. So as you see, the classes are free and online, but as you have the boys, just like representative of other kids who've not had a class in computer science, they may need some assistance to complete the classes. So that's where office hours come up. I will work directly with the schools for the schools to sponsor that opportunity for their students to take the classes and get assistance. So that is my update. I'm looking forward to this year. I am, like Aaron, glad to be a steering council member of the Kansas City Coalition for Digital Inclusion. There are 3 organizations who are a part of this. That would be Kansas City Digital Drive, Urban Tech, and the Kansas City Library. As you guys know, the coalition is not housed in any one organization. The 3 of our organizations represent the work and keeping that work continued here in the Kansas City and greater Kansas City metropolitan area, of course, including Kimberlin and Kansas and any other space that we can reach out to. And I'm ready for questions.
I don't have a question. I just want to make sure everybody understands De La Salle is what some people might consider a last chance high school, where kids end up for a variety of reasons, but often because they've struggled academically. So Mind Drive started there, and I think it's just amazing that that's where you started your program, Ina, because as we know, potential is equally distributed, but opportunity is not.
Yeah.
This is
a
I'm sorry, Aaron.
question in the chat from Mary Kay, which is, did you go and create your own intro to cybersecurity badges for the boys, Ina, or did you use another organization for the badging process?
If you go to my website, urbantech.org, I've got the link to Cisco Net Academy. And so all this work, the digital skills training that I'm doing is through the Cisco Net Academy. So it is their badge. And so it's a nice badge. It says Cisco, I think it's digital badge. And so I also work with the boys to teach them how, or any participant, how to promote that, through their LinkedIn account, when they're applying for a job, how to really take advantage of that badge. And so again, Cisco is globally recognized. And so all they need to do is know how to leverage that credential. It's a workforce credential. And if nothing else, it'll get them in the interview. But my job is to get them the interview, get them in the door, and keep them employed with whatever digital badge they gain.
That's fantastic work, Ina. Thank you so much.
And so I want to echo something that Leslie said, but also as a former Cisco employee, what Ina is doing is life changing, Okay. My whole spectrum changed when I was introduced to Cisco, because back in the old days, I'm talking about 1998 to 2005, 89% of the traffic on the internet ran through Cisco gear. So Ina, my hat is off to you. I think you're doing a wonderful job. Thank you so much. Thank you.
No, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Ina, for that update. We are ready now to move on to our featured presentation. And so without further ado, I will hand this over to Lead for America, Iris O'Donnell Belisario and Katie Bergen. I don't know which of you is going to take the lead, and I think you should be able to share slides if you have them.
Thank you so much, Aaron. I'll take over, and then Iris is going to come in a little later. All right, can everyone see my screen? Perfect. All right, well, hi there, I'm Katie. I'm Director of Recruitment for the American Connection Corps program. I have been with the organization for almost 3 years now, coming up on my 3rd year anniversary at the end of the month. So really excited about that, and just really excited about the growth that we've seen since my first year here at Lead for America and ACC. I am based out of North Carolina on the East Coast, but my husband is from the Midwest, and I'm getting pretty familiar with the Kansas area through Lead for America. So thank you so much for having us. And I'm just going to briefly go over, what the ACC program does, what some of our members do, and then we will allow time at the end for questions, and then I will pass it over to Iris. All right, so the American Connection Corps program, what is it? We are a national service program that is focused on bridging this digital divide and bringing people together across communities. And one of the ways we do this is through our members. We had almost 120 members this year, which is really exciting, across almost 30 different states. And our members, what I love about our program is they're not only locally connected in their states and their communities, but they also develop a national network through our program as well. A little bit about our history, how we came to be. ACC was born out of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so when we realized that especially rural areas needed access to the internet, broadband, ACC deployed boots on the ground members to get a lot of this work done and support these communities during this time. But I like to say, when you're small, you have to do it all. And so when we found out, our members were working on internet access and broadband, or when we empowered them to do that, we also found out that they were working on all these other different projects, right? So if you are in a community and you are doing this type of work, you're more than likely going to touch on economic development, community development, even ag and natural resources, right? Because these communities often rely on 1 to 2 people sometimes. And so that's what we found out that our members were doing. And so we have started expanding our mission and our different pathways that our members can pursue, with the underlying theme being we want to connect communities across the U.S., both through internet access, but also through just general connection with other people in their communities as well. ACC has seen a lot of growth since I first started in 2022 and since 2021. We grew from 14 states to almost 30 states this year. We went from 50 members to 120 members. And being a part of recruitment, I can tell you that we had over 130 host applications and over 1,500 candidates applied for those 120 slots. So we did have to end up turning people away this year, just, due to the nature of our program and the slots we are allotted, and wanting to grow sustainably and making sure that we can support members when they're on the ground in their communities doing this work. But it's just really exciting. This next year, our cohort that will start in September, we hope to be at almost 200 members. And we're really excited about that. But none of that would happen without our wonderful partners and the people that we have in our corner through our national network. So again, going back to the way that our program has evolved, we still have this underlying core theme and message and mission that we want to connect people. I would say, most of our members are still very much working on broadband work, but we have expanded into these other pathway programs. And so if you see any of our LinkedIn posts, any of our social media posts, you may see that some of our members are working more on community and economic development. They're in the health and social capital space. They're even working in ag and natural resources. And I'll share a little bit more of some of our member profiles in a few moments. But yeah, so it's really exciting. And I think the important part that we have learned, or one of the important parts that we have learned as we have continued to develop and build this program, is how much all of these pathways touch each other, and how our members are engaging across these different industries and sectors to get this important work done, which is critical. As we all know, learning to work with others, even if they are not directly working on the projects that we're working on. So what sets us apart? This is going to go into more of the member experience, what we offer. Our mission is to make service more accessible. This includes addressing financial, cultural, logistical barriers so that more individuals, regardless of their background, can engage in meaningful service. Our aim is to broaden who can participate in national service, and to make sure people that we serve reflect the diversity of the communities they're supporting, or the people who serve in our program. Some of the ways we do this by offering access to a living stipend. It's one of the highest stipends in the U.S. We also offer healthcare coverage, childcare reimbursement, extensive training, both nationally and then virtually as well, and an educational award. And our hope is that these benefits and opportunities will limit barriers to this service opportunity, and that more people will feel like they see themselves and that they can access this opportunity. And we have definitely seen this in the past year. We had so many members take advantage of the child care reimbursement specifically, and definitely the healthcare coverage as well. So those are some of our benefits, as our members go throughout our program, and I'm happy to answer any questions about those a little later. But in addition to our benefits, our members also have access to national and local resources that I mentioned before to support their community efforts. They get experience with one-on-one mentorship from their program officers. This is usually done virtually through weekly, bi-weekly, monthly meetings, or they have pod meetings with their entire cohort. And the idea is that they are locally rooted and nationally focused, and have access to this national network of leaders, which we talk about quite a bit here at ACC. But we found, having a balance of both and being able to speak with others in different states and at the national level, and then bringing new information back to communities while having that foundation in their home community is really important for our member experience. just to build off on that, a unique aspect of our program is our commitment to continuous learning and community building. ACC members come together 3 to 4 times a year for a week of fully funded training. So we pay for flights, hotels, training, food. Sometimes it's the first time that our members have ever been on a plane. It's just a really good opportunity to continue to exposing them to these different opportunities and these different leaders in the spaces that they're working in. So usually these sessions offer members the chance to strengthen their skills, learn from experts, and of course, connect one-on-one with one another because we are spread across, 30 different states right now. An example of this would be our members here. We went to the Land O'Lakes headquarters in Minnesota, which was really exciting and fun. I have more of an ag background, so I really loved this training, and our members did as well. They got to see not only the operational side of Land O'Lakes and how they're embedded into the communities, but also the research facilities, which was really interesting. And we always look to partner with our partners for our trainings. We like to say that we're not the industry experts. We'd like to bring in the industry experts and let them facilitate the sessions and really engage with our members. So now we'll dive into a few of our ACC members, past and present, and what they've been doing. First, we have Sydney here from Bonifay, Florida, which is a smaller community in Florida. Sydney joined ACC right after high school, so she was actually a gap year member, and she spent her service year as an agritourism field agent in her rural community. She partnered with the Florida Extension System and worked closely with local leaders to promote agritourism, enhance agricultural practices. And then we have Tim here from Minnesota. Tim was one of our retiree members, and his focus was on expanding broadband access and building tech skills in his community to ensure sustainable digital resources were available. And then we have JJ here from Iowa. He was actually a Stanford graduate, and JJ wanted to return home to work as a digital inclusion coordinator through our program. So he was busy developing accessible, affordable digital programs that promoted cultural understanding and prepared rural Iowans for success in a global workforce. And then lastly, but not least, we have Nasai here. Nasai served out of Pennsylvania, and she was dedicated to more environmental equity, and she worked with Tree Pittsburgh. She did more outreach and tree planting efforts and worked at the local nursery there to strengthen the local tree canopy in her community. So as you can see, our members come from all different backgrounds, all different communities, and they're all interested in different program areas, with that underlying message being connecting everyone and, really leaning into this place, people, and possibility that we like to say here at the American Connection Corps program. And as, part of the recruitment team, I also like to highlight that our program is intergenerational, as you can see here. I like to say that we have members from 17 to 70. So whether you have someone right out of high school who, maybe they just want more experience before they go off to college or go into the workforce. Maybe they're not sure what they want to do and just need a little additional direction or support. Our program is a really great opportunity for them. But we also have people, this is their first professional opportunity in a lot of ways. We have those who are transitioning careers. And then, of course, we have our wonderful retiree members who just want to continue doing good work and giving back to their community in this different phase of life. So, all right, I am going to share this video. Hopefully it works. If not, we'll move on from it. But I think that it should. Let me know if you can't hear it.
It is not coming through on my end, at least.
No, nor on mine. It sort of worked right at the beginning and then faded out and stopped playing the audio.
That's fine. I'm not going to linger on it. I'll figure that out later. But what I'll do is I'll send that link out for us. Let me get back to my presenter view here. And then is my screen back up? Benefit. Okay, I'll send that link out to Vicky later for everyone to view. So what are the benefits of hosting an ACC AmeriCorps member? Of course, you know, the immediate benefit is the additional capacity that they bring. Our members are doing critical work in their communities, and they're able to jump right in from the beginning. With orientation, they learn critical foundational skills like communication, facilitation, outreach, what it takes or what the AmeriCorps member experience is like, what to expect, and how to essentially hit the ground running right out of the gate when they join their host sites immediately after host orientation. And then, of course, you know, there are short-term, long-term, and ongoing benefits, but a big piece that we see AmeriCorps members, our ACC members playing in the future is helping to develop local workforce. And so we see this opportunity as a potential workforce development program in a lot of ways. Not only are they providing immediate capacity needs, but also, you know, a lot of our members share that they may not have had access to an opportunity like this had they not found our program. One of our goals is to provide certifications potentially in the future, or at least a pathway to certain certifications. And so when we think about your communities and your host organizations, you're looking at potentially, you know, building a talent pipeline for future jobs, future organizations at the local and state level as well. And then this is our approach. I really like to lean into the recruitment piece on this slide, because something that is unique about our recruitment process is we do have a place-based recruitment process, essentially meaning that we recruit from your community first. And most of our members are from the local area, at the very least the state. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't go out of that scope occasionally, but we talk through that with you as a potential host site, a potential partner, what that looks like. If you're open to bringing in people from out of state, someone who has a connection to the type of community you're in, but maybe they're not from there. And so we don't like to limit ourselves, but we do operate from a deep respective place through our members and our recruitment process. And we also tailor each of our position descriptions to your community needs. So no member is doing the same exact thing across the US. And we actually have someone who works with you, helps you develop that position description if you need more ideas or just you want to brainstorm. That opportunity is available to you as well. And then something else that's really unique is that our members do begin the program by doing a listening tour or developing somewhat of a community profile, because you can be from a place and you can be raised there, but you may not know every single detail. You know, you may not have a complete understanding of the economic landscape, what's happening politically even. And so just being able to understand the full picture and having more of a holistic approach to community service is really important. And Iris, I'm sure, can talk to you more about what that listening tour looks like later. But those are a few of our approaches at the American Connection Corps program. And then briefly becoming a host. If you do know of any hosts, if you would like to apply, please share this opportunity. Essentially, our hosts just need to be either educational institutions, government agencies, or nonprofits. You just can't be a for-profit entity or business. And so if you think that you would be interested, please feel free to reach out to any of us on the team. We do have our host application open right now as well, so you can apply through that. Takes 10-15 minutes, and I'm happy to share that link with you all later. And then briefly, what is expected of hosts? You have to have a dedicated site supervisor and mentor for the member as they go throughout the year. This is who they directly report to on the ground. We do expect you to provide a clear and engaging position description so that members are aware of what they're going to be doing, the expectations. Again, we work with you on that. There is a financial host contribution that we go through with you as well. We have scholarships available too if you apply and indicate that you may need one. And then of course, they need an adequate place to do their service work. So small office, equipment, logistical support. And then I always like to highlight that we manage more of the administrative side of things. So we manage the recruitment process, selection in partnership with you, of course, the onboarding process, background checks, stipends, educational awards, all of that fun stuff that can weigh down on a potential host site in a small community or even a large community sometimes. And so we take that off of your plate so that you and the member can focus on the work that needs to be done in the community. And then this is the timeline for this year. So this will be the cohort starting in September and graduating in 2026. Host site applications are open right now. Those will wrap up at the end of February, and then we will send out decision letters in March. And then we'll jump right into recruitment over the summer, and our members will be onboarded and start with us in September. Again, they go to orientation first, and then they immediately start with you, the host site, following orientation. So if you're interested in applying, someone who would be great for this program, definitely keep us in mind over the next couple of months. Then, of course, follow us on our socials. And I think that's it. Iris, do you want to go into yours yet, or do we want to pause here for questions?
Pause here for a second, and then I'll just to kind of give you guys an overview, I'll jump into our NTIA proposal, and we were one of the organizations that was recommended, and so that's kind of the sneak peek that I'll be giving you guys. So if you have any recruitment related questions, this would be the time to ask those.
Katie, can you talk more about the financial contribution? What is that amount, and how do those scholarships work?
Yeah, absolutely. So our standard amount is $35,000 for the host fee. Now we do have scholarships. Most of our contributions range from $10,000 to $35,000. So don't let that scare you. We'll chat through that with you in the application process. And we'll go over the options. It's not due immediately, it's due in the fall. We have payment plans. So there are a lot of options to meet the needs of your community, but initially it is $35,000. Any other questions? I'm trying to go through the chat.
Leah, do you want to give a very short kind of review of your participation in the program?
I can do that. And I was going to say, ironically, I'm wearing my sweatshirt today. was not planned. But yeah, I was an ACC member last year with a group of us, actually. There were four of us to start, and then we graduated 3 ACC members from KC Digital Drive last year. And I think most of you kind of got connected with me starting last year. I did my listening tour, reaching out to a lot of you on the call to learn about how KC Digital Drive partners with you. And so I kind of held my initiative there in terms of like outreach and partnership from the start. And then I just kind of started getting plugged in on projects that needed capacity building at KC Digital Drive. And as most of you know, I'm still here today. I got hired full time, which is very exciting. A lot in part due to, I think, like how much support I was able to get through KC Digital Drive. And I think ACC does a great job of supporting their members to be as successful as possible and have a sort of national cohort that you can bounce off of. And so I was able to work on the digital divide simulation and digital inclusion fund and continue to build capacity here. So it was very exciting.
Katie, hi, this is Ken with the Central Family. Just a quick question. How are you guys collecting and measuring and reporting the impact of these wonderful services that I see? How do you guys do that today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm definitely going to let Iris jump in there because she has been more on the program side and she's also a whiz at data. So
Yeah, so I was one of our program officers and I've now switched roles, but the program officer is kind of that main contact to work with the members and helping them to track that data. So we do a monthly impact survey, and then we're actually looking towards a big evaluation process in the next 3 years as part of our NTIA grant. So kind of jumping ahead here. So we brought on Michelle, who's on the call today as one of our new staff members who will really help lead that charge in making sure that the data that we're collecting is being used, is telling a story. Right now, the easiest way to kind of get a view into what our members doing is we do an impact report at the end of the year. And so all of our program officers are asked to kind of select a few of our members from our cohort and say, this person has, done a really accurate job of reporting their data. And then we use that to share out their impact. And if you want to dive into that more, I'm happy to spend a little bit more time in depth with you off the call sometime. And with that, I'm actually going to go ahead and just jump right in because I think that's kind of a good lead in. So ACC has been recommended for the NTIA Digital Equity Competitive Grant. We are really excited about this to be in that first round, and just wanted to share a little bit about what we're hoping to do with this. As someone at the beginning of the call mentioned, recommended, not funded yet, but we are very optimistic there. So right now, you saw this map, I think, before from Katie. This is where we're currently serving. And we really want to use the NTIA grant to reach out and leverage the opportunity to reach some more rural communities and expand our initiatives in some of the communities that we're already in that we've realized really need that additional support. So if you go to the next slide, so this is going to bring us, and then one more, Katie, to all of these new white dots. So we're going to be into 14, some new states within that and some existing ones. You can see like Washington, Montana are going to be some new sites. I think Alabama is a new state, West Virginia. So really trying to go more to that whole expanding across the United States. We'll have 11 host sites represented in that cohort and 80 members. The other aspect of this will be curriculum design, trying to be more intentional about those professional development opportunities we do with our members. And our NTIA cohort is going to have a much more centralized focus on digital equity. And so Katie was talking about all those different focus areas, and we love that our members are doing that. And so with this specific program and this cohort, like sub cohort of our cohort, we're going to kind of dive a little bit more into that digital equity space. So this is kind of a breakdown of all those states that we expect to see. I highlighted Kansas and Missouri. So we are looking to recruit about 8 members for the next 3 years across those 2 states. So we would love any recommendations that you guys have in terms of wonderful young or not young individuals who would be a great fit for this. And as well as a couple different host site locations. We're going to be partnering with KC Digital Drive with this to kind of spearhead this operation. So I did want to give you just a little bit more information in terms of what we're expecting our NTIA cohort to be working on. So kind of like our KC Digital Drive folks who are already there, digital navigation and doing some level of device distribution. We also want to see them moving into some more of the technical space. So doing broadband access mapping, getting them set up so they can do GIS mapping for, different programs on that scale, helping to support with research on a local, state, or federal level. There are some limitations there when it comes to an AmeriCorps member, so we do have to be protective over restricted and prohibited activities, but that program officer role I mentioned is really crucial in coaching the member in what they're allowed to do. And so we're really excited to start to bring this group on in the next 8 months or so for recruitment. And would love to have any suggestions that you all have. And then I kind of briefly mentioned the idea that we're going to be doing some curriculum design. So part of it is we'll be doing a couple different phases. And as we find out what that funding timeline looks like, we'll have some more information into what that curriculum design looks like. So we'll kind of go through a couple different phases where we start out with just a couple pilots, then scaling it up full time to our entire cohort, and then going back to that evaluation piece. So making sure that it's bringing our members up to a different speed than where they might have been when they started, and hoping that we can kind of track their success leading into different workforce spaces. And that's kind of my sneak preview into NTIA. Again, we're just recommended, so we're kind of holding out on sharing a whole lot of information right now. But I would be happy to chat with anyone, and this is Katie and I's contact info. Does anyone have any questions?
Iris, do you have any limitations on how many members serve at any one particular organization?
We don't. We have some sites where I think Tech to Elevate's a great example. They're spread out over 2 different states. And within that right now, they're at 6 members and always looking to expand. So as long as you have the capacity to meet our host site requirements, we're very open to that. Dimitri or JR.
Sorry about that. If I'm not mistaken, on one of those slides, I saw that you have fellows placed with, did that say the Tennessee Department of Economic Development and Commerce?
We have had them.
Have had. So
Not in this past cohort, but the one before. Yeah.
I said this earlier, but I work for the state of Missouri's Department of Economic Development Office of Broadband. So I was just wondering, what does it look like when you place a fellow with a state government? And I'm interested in potentially promoting this to my boss, but I definitely have to learn a little bit more before I could do that.
Yeah, just a state government in general, or more broadband work. What are you thinking?
I would probably recruit for my office, my department. But again, just can you provide like a brief overview of what your fellows placed with state governments, placed with offices of broadband, what they've done?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of our members are focused more on actual like broadband like getting broadband to their communities and making sure that our officials and people on the ground who are working in that area, they have the resources, they're supported. The outreach is being done to understand why this is so important. And then some of our members are more focused on the actual digital skills training piece of broadband internet access. And they deploy existing curriculums, and they'll focus on teaching community members how to utilize digital tools. They'll use like different hands-on training, distributing educational materials. And then some of them do more administrative type work. The main thing with our members to remember is that they cannot displace a current full-time staff member, and they can't lobby for anything. But other than that, it's pretty broad. That's why we do walk you through the position description and give you examples when you apply. And what we can do is we can actually send you examples of our members who are actually working in government agencies versus like a nonprofit or even an educational institution. But it's open and it's flexible. And so that's important to remember.
Got you. Thank you. And then I think I saw Iris that just sent me a message. Please send me that information. I'd love to talk with someone who'd done this in the past. Thank you both.
Yeah, I'll drop my email in the chat if you can send me an email with, I don't have your contact information that I know of, so if you can send me an email, I'd be happy to connect you.
Will do. Thank you.
Venus.
Sure. Thank you. And I'm sorry, my camera isn't working either. But I actually have two questions. One, when you are taking new members through training, is digital inclusion training part of that? Is it mandatory or optional?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So at the moment, we do 3 different in-person events, and that first in-person event is our orientation, and usually their first or second week of service with us. We are taking them through usually an overview of what digital equity is, whether we're presenting it or bringing a guest speaker. And then we do try to provide some different leadership and kind of relationship building skills. This is an ever evolving curriculum, but at the moment, digital equity training is mandatory for all of our members. We also do virtual pods on a biweekly basis, and they are more centered towards that space. We are hoping to kind of break it out into tracks in the future, but at the moment with the scale of our program, everyone kind of receives the same content.
Okay. And then the second question is, what is the average length of time for a member when they join the team? Is it just 1 year or, what's the average?
So some of our members come back for a second year. I don't know like percentages. I think Katie, you might have some numbers there. But I'd say 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, so we actually had about 30% of our cohort return for the 2025 cohort. So the one we're in now. And it really just depends on, if host sites return. But their 2-year is the max right now. We're working on being able to allow 30-year members because there's enough interest there. But right now it is a 2-year max.
All right, thank you.
Iris, Candy, I had a quick question. So in terms of your digital equity training, do you guys already have a digital navigator curriculum program already built? That's the first part of the question. The second part of my question is, do you fund other digital navigator programs?
So great question. At the moment, we give the option for sites to use North Star as we continue to scale. I'm not sure if we'll continue to provide that, so I don't want to make promises. But at the moment, we provide access to North Star, which is, an existing curriculum. We're a big believer in not reinventing the wheel, so we try to share programs that exist, especially free resources to our members, so they can leverage existing curriculums that are already out there. We have access. My favorite curriculum is actually designed by one of our alumni, and it's totally free access. And so we do share those resources with them. And in terms of funding other like digital programs, can you share a little bit about what you're thinking there?
I've got to get used to Zoom's buttons here, so bear with me. Yeah, so my the premise of my question is this here. So we've got a very effective digital navigator program, right? We measure everything that we do because, again, 2 years ago, I didn't know anything about a nonprofit. I come from the for-profit world where we had KPIs, key performance indicators. We measured everything. So my point is, we've got this digital navigator program that has supporting data that's been very impactful. So we're just kind of seeing what resources are out there to fund these various positions. Because right now we have 60 digital navigators and we have 113 people on our wait list who want to be digital navigators. So that's the premise of my question.
Gotcha. I think that I'm not sure. I think there's a potential for a partnership there. Really, the only funding we do is scholarships for host sites. And so if you wanted to apply to be a host site, that might be an opportunity. But I think that'd be a more in-depth question because you already have the program. So figuring out how that works with displacing existing staff, things like that. But I'm sure if you wanted to reach out to Katie to kind of talk through those logistics, she could connect you with the right person on our team to walk through that.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
Go ahead, Leslie.
Well,
I was just going to point out one other kind of connection that has been fun to develop and to see develop over time. One of the things that Leah did quite a bit of work on in her time as a fellow and then has taken on as on staff has been the development of the digital divide simulation. And the connection with ACC has proved fruitful in that regard too. Leah and Leslie were able to go down and with Carrie offer a simulation as part of the training. So at one of the annual events in Austin in December at the winter meeting of the fellows, they did a digital divide simulation. And I know I'm not as close to this, but Carrie has been working. I don't know if that's with you, Iris, on sort of what that looks like in your future cohort. So I don't know, Iris, if you want to say anything additional on that, but we had a great time doing it. We've gotten a lot of good feedback from the fellows.
Yeah, I think it was a wonderful opportunity to be able to bring back a project one of our alumni helped develop. So that was really exciting for us. And it was very well received, and our members really did enjoy that opportunity to go through it. I think it really works to tie together a lot of those different focus areas that we have. And we are still kind of working with you guys to figure out what that looks like in his future, but definitely looking forward to partner with you.
Yeah, so that kind of to Venus's question about the training that the members receive, this is really a day in the life kind of experience, immersive to try and not only build up that empathy, but have a broader understanding of the variety of ways that digital exclusion shows up in lived experience among a lot of people. So it was really great to do that for those it was like 120 members, I think. So that was really fun.
Leslie, what kind of feedback did you get from those members, you know what I mean, after they went through the simulation?
Yeah, I think it was Iris, you can maybe talk about this. You sent us the report. I'd have to pull up the quotes, but in general, I think it helped really solidify the issue in a lot of people's minds, and broaden and deepen their understanding as a whole.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll drop some of those quotes in the chat, and I did add in the chat as well. I highly recommend anyone who has the opportunity to go through one. Even as someone who's been in this space for several years, it was really eye-opening as well to kind of connect some of the dots that an individual might be experiencing who doesn't have access to all of these resources.
Thank you so much, Iris and Katie, for joining us this morning and presenting. Appreciate all the questions. We've got about 10 minutes left in our official time here. We don't have any other structured agenda items, but we do have a little bit of time always at the end for community announcements or other questions from the group. So I want to make sure to avail that make that time available to anyone. If you've got a question or a comment or something you want to share that you haven't had a chance to do so, you can either raise your hand, put it in chat, or just speak up.
I had a request. Kimberlyn, if you're still with us, can you drop the registration link for the upcoming webinar for your state capacity grant program?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Give me a second to get it, but if not, before you guys get off the phone, just send it to the group, okay?
Anything, Tony or Leslie? I'm sorry, I wasn't able to make the UMKC Digital Equity Working Group meeting yesterday. Not sure if you had any thing that you wanted to share.
Oh, just a few things we're contemplating for 2025. One is more direct connections between affordable housing initiatives and digital inclusion initiatives. And so we had a pretty good discussion of that. We're going to do some research on where that may be happening elsewhere. There was pretty good support for that. The other really comes out of the coalition meeting last week and what Kenneth said today, which is trying to provide guidance to smaller organizations, just like we do with grant writing on, in this case, on data collection, and especially the empirical data that Kenneth was talking about. How do you do it well? And we thought maybe we could look at an initiative to kind of share approaches with, less resourced organizations that still are doing terrific work, but may not be accustomed to the kind of data collection protocols that we're talking about. So those were two sort of takeaways from yesterday's meeting.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I don't know, Leslie, if you shared in that, I don't know how much overlap there is, so don't want to be redundant much of the work that you're doing for the Digital Life Exchange, because I don't, did you talk about that on the meeting yesterday?
Yes.
Yes, she did. Yep.
Great. Yeah. So that's again, I think most of the folks here are on that, but that's one of the outcomes of that work, hopefully, is just for the organizations that are part of that, so that we can have a more systematic view of, what are the trainings? How do we categorize them? How do we record them? How do we have really regional wide data by the practitioner? And sort of what's the right level of sort of reporting burden that's not too much, but still allows us to be able to look at things in a more holistic way than we can now. So appreciate everyone's participation in that, and more to come as it develops. Anything else? Okay, well, the next coalition meeting, we will hopefully be getting ready for another Chiefs Super Bowl appearance. I think it will be on a prospective future Red Friday, February 7th. So fingers crossed for this weekend and hopefully next, so that we can have a bit of an anticipatory celebration next time we get together. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.